welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. Welcome back to another library haul. I know, right? I'm doing 2 months of back-to-back library hauls, which is lovely. I've popped on another lot of reservations, and here I am to show you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 library books, all of which I'm really excited about, all of which I still need to add to my current pile of library books. That's a mere third of them. So I think I've currently got 28 books out of the library. Whenever I do a library haul and talk about the large number of books I have out from the library, people are like, oh my God, I can't believe how many books you've got out from the library. I can get out 30 books from the library, which is amazing. I used to be a member of another library, another county library, because I worked on sort of county lines, and I used to be able to get 30 books out from that library as well. So at one point I could have had up to 60 books out of 2 libraries, but alas, not anymore. But 28 books I've got out from the library at the moment, and here's 10 more to show you. The first 3 are all to do with walking. You may well know that David and I have been spending a lot more time outside this year, and we're currently walking our way through. This isn't a library book, but on our Friday reading vlogs, we've been walking our way through this book, which is called Kent, 40 Favourite Walks. And I'm delighted to inform you that there's different ones of these for different counties, because loads of people have got in touch with me and said, oh, I've done that, and I've bought this one for Northumberland, and I've bought it for Essex, and I've bought it for, so like, lovely stuff. David and I have just, although today I'm filming this on a Monday, we've had the day off, which was lovely, and we didn't do a walk this weekend, and we had the day off, and we were sort of like saying, oh, what should we do on our day off? And we were going to go to the cinema, and in the end we decided to go for one of our walks. So we've done a walk without it being on a Friday reading vlog. Apologies. Today we've done Teaston and Wateringbury, which was lovely, and we took a packed lunch, which was really nice. But back to the library haul, and the fact is that because we've been spending much more time outside and walking and things like that, I've got a couple of books. 2 haven't arrived yet, 3 books here and 2 that haven't arrived, about walking and being in the countryside and things like that. So the first one is A Brief History of the Countryside in 100 Objects. I have a history of women in 100 Objects, which I read a good few years ago, and very much enjoyed. And I thought maybe this would sort of tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing when we're in the countryside. This looks more sort of historical in terms of like specifics. When I got it, I thought it would be like, this is why you might see a finger post, and this is why you might see like, what was that thing called today that we saw, the Second World War pillbox, but it looks as though it's more sort of specific. So for example, here is a whiteware jug, which is from the 13th to the 15th century. There's a picture of it. So yeah, countryside stuff. Then I've got Kate Humble's book, which I got out before. This is called Thinking on My Feet, The Small Joy of Putting One Foot in Front of Another, and it's about Kate Humble sort of advocating for walking and having a lovely time, and yeah, it's set in sort of seasonally and like diary entries, which I love. So yeah, and it starts in the new year but then shifts quite quickly into spring, which is where we are now, so excited to read that. Then I've got 52 Ways to Walk by Annabel Street. So as I said, we're currently this year going to be walking our way through Kent walks, but we were thinking about what we sort of wanted to do for next year already. Obviously it's April, of course I'm thinking about next year, and somebody mentioned that they had, one of you guys mentioned that you had this 52 Ways to Walk, and it says here, the surprising science of walking for wellness and joy 1 week at a time. So every week it gives you a sort of walking project. So the first week, for example, is walk in the cold, because you'll probably be starting this in January, but as we go a bit later on, it goes take a walk dance, or a dance walk, I don't know what that is, walk alone, walk with your ears, and then as we get further, like halfway through the year, we're sort of looking at walk with a map, walk with purpose, walk in sunshine, sing as you stride, and then into autumn, take a foraging walk, hill walks, walk with your nose, and then towards the end of the year, walk hungry, walk backwards, walk in an evergreen forest for a good night's sleep. So we were thinking, I wanted to have a look at it before I maybe fully committed to this being our next year's project. What I'd really like for Ben Giles to do is just to bring out another one of these. But this one came out, that's not going to happen. This came out in 2023. The thing with walking books is, and I don't know if that's just the walking books in Kent, because they're the ones I've been looking at, is that often David's mum and dad had a very good walking book, my mum and dad had a very good walking book, but sometimes the land isn't public land anymore and gets bought out, or houses get bought, like built on the footpaths, or the styles overgrow, or and they're not, you sort of need it to be up to date. Now I do have the Ordnance Survey app, which I set the map from the walk from this on that when we go, and I guess I'll be relying on that going forward. But yeah, I just like one of these every year if possible, with 40 new walks. 40 is a very achievable number, she says. I've done 9 now, and that's a quarter of the way through. And today, well, it's almost a quarter of the way through, and today is the last day of March, so there we go. Next up is A Better Tomorrow, Life Lessons in Hope and Strength by Mina Smallman. David and I have been watching Great British Menu, and Mina Smallman was one of the judges on Great British Menu. Mina Smallman's 2 daughters were murdered, and this is about her her daughters and the prelude to her daughters being murdered, and then the aftermath of that. Their names were Bieber, Henry and Nicole Smallman, and they were killed in the park by a male stranger as they celebrated Bieber's birthday. And yeah, when I heard that she'd written this book, I thought, oh my God, I really want to read that. So here I am getting it out from the library. So important topic, horrible topic, but important topic nevertheless. And then on to another memoir, that's My Good Bright Wolf by Sarah Moss. Sarah Moss has written one of my favourite memoirs that I really reread a lot, called Strangers in Iceland, Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland, about her and her family relocating to Iceland for a year or so. So I'm just going to have a little slurp of my Iron Brew sugar-free. So refreshing. And I was certain that this was going to be on the Women's Prize for non-fiction long list. So I popped a reservation on it at the library, thinking I wanted to read it anyway because Names for the Sea, how much I love that. And it wasn't, which was a real big shocker to me. So again, we'll get around to this at some point. A lot of these books have got a lot of reservations on, so I've got a lot of work to do early doors to get them back. Then from one book that I thought was going to be nominated for the Women's Prize for non-fiction to a book that I thought was going to be nominated for the Women's Prize for fiction, and that's The City Changes Its Face by Emma McBride. I've read a few books by Emma McBride. When I picked this up on a Friday reading blog a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh, I didn't know she'd had more books than that. So I've read A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing and The Lesser Bohemians, but since then she's also had Strange Hotel and Mouthpieces out. It's written a stream of consciousness, and sometimes it's a bit sort of interesting the way it's set out on the page. So although it's, for me, I find this a challenging read, I have to sort of like set aside extra concentration time for it, but I have got a lot from them. I remember when I read The Lesser Bohemians, I was like, I'm never going to get this, I'm not smart enough for it. And then when it sort of finally clicked, you have to let it almost wash over you, but you have to concentrate quite a lot. So I'll just read you the first line, just to get an idea. Now, the city changes its face as I tap at my teeth. Rain going delinquent beyond in the street, and it's all over him, closing the door. Sorry I'm late. And in from the night, the water on his body making inroads to mine, cold lips white under fingernails blue. Why are you sitting in the window, waiting? For what? Just for you? His smile then, and I smile back. There we go. So, yeah, it takes a bit of time to... But it's worth it. It's worth it, guys. And then I've got 2 books that are on the Women's Prize for Fiction long list. Both of these have got loads of reservations on, so I need to go to these. A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike. Lots of people have said very good things to me about this, and it sounds as though it's going to be great. It's set in Tudor England, and a sort of side of Tudor England that you rarely hear about, because all you ever hear about in Tudor England is Henry VIII and all of those knobheads. It says, born a vagabond, Tib Ingleby has never had a roof of her own, but her mother has taught her that if you're not too bound by the big man's rules, there are many ways a woman can find shelter in this world. Now her ma is dead in a trick gone wrong, and young Tib is orphaned and alone. And this is her making her way across the fields and fens, I think it's fields and forests of medieval England. And there's her coming across people who sort of care for her, but also people who will exploit her. And yeah, it sounds like a really interesting period of history to hear from somebody of sort of Tib's class, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Apparently Tib herself is a little riot, so there we go. Then I've got The Dream Hotel by Layla Lalami. Masses of reservations on this as well. Sarah is returning home from a conference abroad when agents from the Risk Assessment Administration pull her aside at the airport. Using data from her dreams, their algorithm has determined that she is at an imminent risk of harming her husband. For his safety, she must be transferred to a retention centre and kept under observation for 21 days. But as Sarah arrives to be monitored alongside other dangerous dreamers, she discovers that with every deviation from the facility's strict and ever-shifting rules, their stays can be extended, and that getting home to her family is going to cost more than just 3 weeks of good behaviour. Then one day a new resident arrives, disrupting the order of the facility and leading Sarah on a collision course with the very companies that have deprived her of her freedom. Oh, David and I started watching Severance last night, and that made me think of Severance when I was reading that out, so there we go. And then I have a book that was on the International Booker Prize long list or short list, called Hunchback by Sao Ichikawa, which is translated by Polly Barton. I feel like I've read quite a few books that have been translated by Polly Barton. And this says is about Shaka Isawa, who was born with a congenital muscle disorder with severe spine curvature and uses an electric wheelchair and a ventilator. Within the limits of her care home, her life is lived online. She studies, she tweets indignantly, she posts outrageous stories on an erotica website. One day, a new male carer reveals he has read it. The sex, the provocation, the dirt, her response, an indecent proposal. Written by the first physically disabled author to win Japan's most prestigious literary award and acclaimed instantly as one of the most important Japanese novels of the 21st century, Hunchback is an extraordinary, thrilling glimpse into the desire and darkness of a woman placed at humanity's edge. I think I might read this soon because it's very short. Oh God, it's barely even 100, it isn't 100 pages. So yeah, I think I might get to that quick, just so that I know that that's done and dusted. And then the last book I've got is Salt Houses by Hala Alyan, which I think Mercedes mentioned. I've also got The Arsonist City, which Mercedes is also mentioned before. Somebody bought that for me from my wish list. But she also mentioned reading this, I think it was Mercedes, after enjoying that, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, I saw that my library had it and I popped a reservation on. So this is on the eve of Alia's wedding. Her mother reads her future in a cup of coffee dregs. Although she keeps her predictions on her, to herself that day, they soon come to pass in the wake of the Six-Day War of 1967. As the family are forced to move from Nablus to Kuwait City, Alia and her husband reluctantly build a new life. But Alia's husband becomes torn between needing to remember and learning to forget, as he's haunted by the disappearance of her brother, who gets caught up in the Palestinian resistance. When Kuwait is invaded, Alia and her family once again lose their home and their story as they know it. Scattering to Beirut, Paris and Boston, Alia's children soon start families of their own, once more navigating the burdens and blessings of beginning again. So yeah, I mean, there's no filler here. These are all thrilling. I'm very, very excited to read all of them. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know where you would start. Let me know what books you've got out from the library at the moment, and I'll see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye!